Location: Bifrost. Odin had just saved Thor, Loki, and the Warrior 3 from the wrath of Loki and the Frost Giants, who Thor had led an attack against in a fit of rage for interrupting his crowning ceremony. As Odin returned, he was enraged by his son's actions. As the others stepped out, Odin proceeded to caution Thor for his reckless action, but Thor remained unrepentant. In fact, Thor exchanged words with his father, accusing Odin of being a weak ruler. However, the moment Thor called Odin a fool, he was not aware that his cup was full. Odin stood shocked at the actions of his own son. However, Odin knew at that instant that Thor was undeserving of the throne of Asgard. Loki, seeing what Odin was about to do, attempted to prevent it, but Odin ordered him to stand aside. Odin's mind was set, and he was ready. Everything was about to change in Thor's life, or not. For something was about to happen that would change the course of history forever. In that instant, various changes were occurring in other universes. The changes caused time quakes in the universe, each time quake causing severe time waves that spread across various universes, leading to significant changes in their own timelines. It was an unending sequence of temporal changes. Odin proceeded to start casting Thor out, beginning to strip him of his power. As Odin proceeded, there was nothing but horror in Thor's eyes. However, his eyes witnessed something else some seconds later. A bright light appeared, blinding everyone that was present in the room. The last thing Loki witnessed was both Thor and Odin screaming as the light consumed them. 6 months later. Location: Throne Room of Asgard. Loki stood at the throne room of Asgard, his eyes admiring the throne. He had to admit he had the undeniable urge to sit on the throne. However, every time he wanted to proceed, hesitation would prevent him. He was aware that sitting on this throne would be considered treason, but deep down, Loki did not care. After all, to his mind, the person that sat on the throne did not deserve it. The doors opened, and Loki sharply turned to witness Thor and his mother, Frigga, walk into the room. With a cold face, Loki watched as Thor came and ascended the throne. It was sickening to watch for Loki. "Bring Loki in," Thor commanded. In the past 6 months, Asgard had been in a full-blown war with the Frost Giants, one that Asgard emerged victorious in the end. Today, the Warrior 3 were bringing in the head of the Frost Giants, Loki, to Thor for his punishment. Loki was displayed before Thor, and Thor spent the first few seconds laughing at his enemy. He scoffed at Loki and questioned if Loki truly thought that he was unbeatable. Thor noted that no one could beat the Asgardians, and Loki would pay for his treachery. Turning to Sif, Thor commanded that Loki's head be brought to him. The command shocked Frigga and Loki, who protested that keeping Loki alive would serve as a deterrent to possible rebellious Frost Giant factions in Jotunheim. However, Thor refused to pay heed to their reasoning. Looking at Sif, Thor noticed that she hesitated a bit. He asked her if she was up for the task, and Sif maintained that she was. She signaled Volstagg and Fandral to hold Loki still, as she went further to execute him. As she decapitated him, Frigga looked away, while Loki looked on in anger. None of this would be happening if Odin was here, Loki whispered to Frigga. Frigga urged Loki not to speak of the matter again. Odin had disappeared for the past 6 months, and Thor had been made to ascend the throne. However, every day, Loki wished that Odin would return to Asgard. In the next hour, Loki met Sif in one of the hallways and stood in her way. At first, Sif seemed uninterested in what he was going to say and attempted to make her way past him. However, Loki was adamant about speaking to her, and she eventually let him have his way. Loki admitted that if the past 6 months had shown anything, it had shown that Thor was not fit to be king of Asgard. First off, Thor seemed to be on the verge of tyranny. Against the good advice of the council, Thor waged a full-on war against the frost giants, and this war had cost Asgard a lot. Loki urged Sif to remember the valiant men and women she lost in battle, and he urged her to see that their deaths would have been prevented. Loki also noted that Thor had not made any politically valid decision. In fact, Thor would rather fight in battles and drink. To Loki, Thor was too immature to be king, and they had to do something about it. Sif remained silent as Loki spoke at length. When he was done, she coldly told him that if he ever spoke ill about Thor again, she would personally present his head to Thor. Then, she walked away. Location: Bifrost. Loki walked to the Bifrost, his intent clear. As he met Heimdall, he knew that the gatekeeper might pose a bit of a challenge for him. However, Loki was determined to keep on. Heimdall asked Loki what his intention was, and Loki admitted that he was going on a little mission, one that Heimdall did not need to be concerned about. With a chuckle, Heimdall asked if Loki's mission involved bringing down Thor. When Loki did not answer, Heimdall admitted that Loki was a selfish brat who would do anything to get power. On another day, Heimdall would cast Loki aside. Hearing this, Loki asked why Heimdall was not casting him aside now. With a sigh, Heimdall noted that Thor's leadership of Asgard had left even the Asgardian citizens shaken. They were reeling from the after effects of the war, and Thor was not helping matters. Anybody that had attempted to speak against his leadership style had been imprisoned or bluntly ignored. 6 months of power had changed Thor, and not for the better. With that, Heimdall asked Loki what his plan was. Loki admitted that he was no match for Thor, not when Thor possessed Mjolnir and Odin's kingly authority and magic. Therefore, Loki's plan was to find someone who was going to be able to stop Thor. He was going to find Odin. Heimdall raised an eyebrow, informing Loki that no one had been able to find Odin in the past 6 months, not ever since the mysterious light had attacked the Bifrost and taken him away. For all they knew, Odin could have been dead. However, Loki admitted that perhaps people were not willing to do what it took to find Odin. At that moment, Heimdall understood that Loki had been delving into black magic to find Odin. Loki continued by noting that he had traced Odin to Midgard, and he was going to go find him. Before Loki could continue, Sif entered the room and noted she was coming with him. At first, Loki was surprised. However, Sif admitted that if Odin was alive, Asgard stood a chance against Thor. The Thor she knew, the friend she loved, was gone. Location: Earth, Foster residence. After Heimdall had sent them to Earth, Loki continued using his black magic to trace Odin. Fortunately, he had been able to trace Odin to an apartment. Seeing the apartment, Loki and Sif were prepared for anything. However, what they were not prepared for was seeing Odin and a young woman, who identified herself as Jane Foster, having dinner. At first, Foster intended to attack them as she did not know who they were, but Loki immediately identified himself and Sif as friends of Odin, noting some weird characteristics that Odin possessed. Of course, Sif would have preferred to not have learned of these characteristics, convinced that they were friends. Even if their medieval-looking outfits were quite disturbing, Foster invited them into her home. Odin also welcomed them, even if it appeared like he had no idea who they were. In the course of the dinner, Foster informed them that she had found Odin some months ago, and soon enough he was discovered to be amnesic. In time, she had formed a father-daughter bond with Odin, and she was able to get him released from the hospital, and now he lived with her. Loki and Sif found it quite impressive that Odin had adapted quickly to the ways of Midgard. In fact, it would have been very hard to believe that he was not from this world. Sif, however, turned to Loki and asked if Loki had any ideas on how to restore Odin's memory. Loki, unfortunately, was blank. Location: Bifrost. Heimdall was quite surprised to see Thor at the Bifrost, but Heimdall held himself. If Thor came here, he must have wanted to talk about something important. Thor noted that now that the frost giants were defeated, Asgard needed to be put on the apex as it was meant to be. In order to achieve this, there had to be worlds that needed to be conquered. Heimdall was quite worried about this idea and attempted to talk Thor out of it. However, when Thor menacingly took a step towards him, Heimdall knew that Thor's mind was already set. Thor walked away, his mind entirely fixed on world domination. The throne had corrupted him. Location: Midgard, foster residence. Heimdall swiftly informed Loki and Sif of Thor's plans and urged them to act quickly. Knowing that they were out of time, Loki knocked out Foster and dragged Odin to a corner. He attempted various spells and various speeches to bring Odin back to his senses. However, none of his tricks worked out this time. There was no way of getting Odin back. Heartbroken, Loki knew that he had to resort to Plan B. He removed a dagger from his sheath and stabbed Odin with it. A horrified Sif ran to Odin as he fell on the floor, dying. Shocked, Sif turned to Loki and asked why he did this. Loki admitted that he had done a lot of research in the past 6 months, and since Odin could not help them, he killed Odin to release someone who could. As Odin died, they felt a weird vibration as a portal opened outside. "Who is that?" Sif asked. "My sister, Hela," Loki answered. Location: Asgard throne room. Thor had been enjoying the scenery of his throne room when Hela stepped into the room. He was shocked to see her, wondering who she was and how she got here. Hela revealed herself as the rightful queen of Asgard, and now that Odin was dead, she was here to take her place. Enraged by Hela's assertions, Thor roared that he was the king of Asgard. In no time, he and Hela were engaged in a mighty battle. The battle was an epic one, with Thor and Hela sparring on a destructive footing. However, Hela was able to gain the upper hand and subsequently beat Thor into submission once she broke Mjolnir. As Thor did not know his true strength did not come from his hammer, he was rendered powerless and Hela defeated him in no time. With Thor defeated, Hela prepared to ascend the throne of Asgard. However, she suddenly realized she was fading away at a rapid rate. Enraged at what was happening, she turned around to see Loki and Sif. Loki revealed that when he killed Odin, he had done so with an enchanted blade. Loki had used black magic to ensure that once Hela defeated Thor, she would be magically transported back into her prison, this time bound by the blade that killed Odin. When Sif asked how Loki would be able to achieve that, Loki reminded her that he was no hero. He touched Sif and used the opportunity to drain her of all her magic, automatically making her mortal. And with that, Hela faded away. Sif fell to the floor, and Loki was standing tall over the unconscious body of the former king. A month later. Location: Asgardian prison. King Loki approached Thor in his cell, although Thor did not seem moved by his presence. Loki admitted that all his life he felt inferior to Thor, and now it was amazing to see how the tides had turned. Loki admitted that while he did not want to kill Odin and drain Sif of her magic, he had to do the necessary to ensure Thor was taken down. And of course, Asgard had believed Loki and taken his side. Pissed off, Thor asked what Loki truly wanted. With a chuckle, Loki revealed that he was the one who let frost giants ruin Thor's first coronation ceremony. A shocked Thor attempted to attack Loki on hearing the news, but was knocked out by the cell's shields immediately. Grinning wickedly, Loki wished Thor a miserable life and walked away, victorious at last. Thor had caused his own downfall, leading to Loki's ascension.